Today, I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to be talking about watches I was seriously into in 2024. Some I even came close to buying. But here in 2025, the love's just not there anymore. First up is the Nomos Club. I came really close to picking one up in 2023, specifically the Club Sport Neomatic with the petrol dial, reference 746. It's got a clean modern design, a versatile 37mm case that's just 8.4mm thick, and that green PVD-coated sunburst dial is seriously eye-catching. Plus, the DUW 3001 movement inside is a real gem. But here's why I passed in the end. Late last year, I picked up the IWC Portugueser small seconds. And honestly, that changed the game. Since then, I haven't really felt the need for another small seconds piece. The IWC just outshines the Nomos in almost every way. And as much as I wanted to love the Club Sport, it's hard for it to wow me now. Next up, the Omega Chronoscope. Man, the first time I saw this at the AD, I was hooked. It's a big watch, 43mm in diameter, and fairly tall, so not the most wrist-friendly watch out there. But on the flip side, you get a ton of dial to look at. And honestly, I found it more visually interesting than the classic Speedmaster Moon watch. It's different with a cooler backstory, inspired by the chronographs of the 1940s. The manual wind 9908 movement has all the bells and whistles. Column wheel, coaxial escapement, and decoration that's worth looking at. Overall, the Chronoscope is just a standout piece. But at the time, the price was a stretch. And after a few months, the initial excitement just faded. Sometimes, if you don't pull the trigger when the passion hits, the moment passes. And in my case, I ended up finding something that looked even more unique, the Baume & Mercier Capeland. It has a similar dial layout and design language, but leans more vintage, which I really dig. Plus, it comes in at less than half the price of the Omega. The Longines Spirit. A textbook gotta go anywhere, do anything watch. It's got a timeless design, solid specs, and the one I had my eye on was the 40mm titanium version. Reference L3-8101-536. The anthracite dial paired with gilt-applied numerals and hands just looks right. And the COSC-certified L888 movement is a reliable workhorse with a solid 3-day power reserve. But here's where things fell apart. My local AD never had one in stock. That is the titanium version. They wanted a 50% deposit just to place an order. And on top of that, full MSRP was the only option, since it was considered a special order. That kind of commitment without even trying it on, it just didn't sit right with me. Now, to be honest, I don't really see a spot for it in my collection anymore. Longines makes some beautiful watches, and I'd still love to own one at some point. But for now, there's nothing from the brand that's calling out to me. The fourth watch I fell out of love with is the Grand Seiko SBGW 301 from the Elegance collection. Around this time last year, I was on the hunt for a Grand Seiko dress piece, and I even made a video about it, which I'll link below. I was looking for something small, slim, and refined, and Grand Seiko is known for making some of the best dress watches. Plus, I thought it would nicely round up what would have been a balanced Grand Seiko collection. But after trying the SBGW 301 along with some other watches in the Elegance lineup, I quickly realized they just weren't for me. The smaller proportions didn't sit quite right on my wrist, and I walked away thinking I still wanted something compact, but with a different vibe. Not long after, I ended up picking a vintage Grand Seiko 5645, and that watch hit the sweet spot. The smaller case combined with that vintage aesthetic just clicked. The Elegance line still has some fantastic pieces, and I wouldn't rule out revisiting it down the line. But for now, I've moved on. I'm no longer actively looking for another dressy Grand Seiko. The Citizen was a watch from Citizen that I was so fascinated by that I ended up making an entire video about it. The specs are off the charts, and owning one kind of puts you in that top 1% of Citizen collectors. These watches house what's arguably the most accurate and respected quartz movement in the world. But as we all know, great specs don't always translate into a watch you fall in love with. When I finally got to try them on, they just felt sterile, cold, technically impressive, but emotionally flat. There was no character, no spark, and that really stood out to me, especially when I compare it to the feeling I get with Grand Seiko. There's this warmth and genuine emotional pull. With the Citizen, there was none of that, so I passed. Funny thing is, the watch itself is nearly flawless. I ended up feeling more disappointed with myself for not liking it than anything else. But since then, I haven't even thought about it once. If there's one Rolex to own above all others, it's the Datejust 41 with the mint green dial. A perfect representation of what Rolex stands for. I even told myself, what better way to enter the brand than with this iconic watch? But the more I researched, the more my enthusiasm waned. Given the inflated gray market prices, since getting one from an authorized dealer is nearly impossible, I realized there are far more compelling watches out there in design, finishing, and mechanical sophistication. What really sealed the deal for me, though, was finally accepting that the Datejust isn't a rare watch at all. A quick search on Chrono24 reveals an endless sea of them listed by gray market dealers. And then there's the issue of counterfeits. The Datejust is the most replicated watch in the world, with fakes becoming frighteningly accurate. The thought of buying one second-hand only to question its authenticity made me incredibly wary. So for all those reasons, my love for the watch faded. It's still a classic, but when I weigh everything, price, availability, exclusivity, and the risk of fakes, it's just not the one for me. And that's it, 6 watches I was really into in 2024, but by 2025, the spark was gone. Tastes evolve, priorities shift, and sometimes a watch just doesn't hold that magic once you've actually held it in hand. Every piece I mentioned here is still a great watch in its own right, and they all deserve a look. Just because they don't speak to me anymore doesn't mean they won't be the perfect fit for you. This is all just part of my personal watch collecting journey. Now I'd love to hear from you. What watches have you wanted to buy, only to fall out of love with later? Drop a comment below, hit like if you enjoyed this, and don't forget to subscribe. Wish you the best in your watch collecting journey, and I'll see you in the next one.